Hello and welcome to Hoffman Naturopathic, the podcast where I discuss all things mental health, mind, body medicine, and bringing the spiritual to the everyday. If you want to know what it's like to live with full integration of mind, body, and spirit, you are in the right place, and I'm so glad you're here. Hey there, and welcome to episode 5 of the podcast. I'm still getting over a cold, so hopefully I don't sound too stuffy, but if I do, I'm sorry. I've waited so long to record this, but it just is time to do it. So hopefully the content rings through regardless of how snuffly I might sound. Today, the topic is moving in the direction of ease, and this is a concept that I learned in craniosacral therapy when I was doing my training to learn that modality. And if you're not familiar with it, craniosacral therapy is an osteopathic modality, and essentially what you're doing is supporting full range of motion of the bones of the skull and also the sacrum. So cranium, skull, sacral, sacrum. So this is supporting movement at both the top and the bottom of your spinal cord. And why this is important is because your brain actually creates cerebrospinal fluid, and as it does this, the space around your brain fills up, and so your bones move, and then it drains through your spine, and so then the bones move again. And this is something you can actually feel with practice and support different movements. So sometimes what could happen is that, there's that stuffiness. What can happen is that you get some restrictions in those bones, and because we're human and we're moving and we're all the time doing things, different bones can get sort of lodged under one another or just feel a little bit restricted, and so we can get things like headaches or tension or a whole host of different things. And so craniosacral supports that full and open movement of those bones to release a lot of those symptoms. And if you've ever had chiropractic work done, I like to contrast these two because craniosacral is all about moving things in the way that they feel like they are meant to be going. And so this can be counterintuitive because sometimes a bone is moving in the direction of its restriction. And so we just hold it there. We don't push it further into the restriction, but just supporting it in that movement that feels really natural to it. And of course, this takes practice to tell which direction bones, quote, want to be going or not. But it is really remarkable because when you move it into that direction of ease, invariably what happens is that it starts moving in the other direction with full range of motion. And it's a really beautiful process, and all sorts of symptoms can get resolved and people feel better, and it just is very exciting for me. But chiropractic work, if you've ever seen a chiropractor, what they will do is the method is to move the bone or the spine in the direction of the restriction. So you feel where it's not moving, and then you force that movement into that direction. And neither one of these is better or worse than the other, but they're very different ways of approaching a similar issue. And of course, craniosacral is working with the bones of the skull, and so you don't want to be doing a lot of high velocity thrusts there, whereas the spine can handle a lot more of that high velocity adjustment. So that's part of the difference there. But I just think in terms of approaching life, how beautiful a concept to always be moving in the direction of ease rather than trying to force things through and make it happen, which just doesn't feel good. Maybe for you this is how you like to approach life, in which case that's fine. You should do whatever works best for you. But for me, I find that moving in the direction of ease really feels so much better. It makes life feel so much more gentle. It makes things feel much more easy. And then I find that just like with those bones in the skull, if you move in the direction of ease, even if it feels counterintuitive, at some point, and it can take minutes or hours or days or even weeks, but at some point what will happen is that I can move in the direction I really want to be going with much more enthusiasm and almost like much more velocity. It's like pulling back a slingshot and then you just let it go. So I move in the direction of ease and it like pulls back that slingshot, and when I'm ready to move, I'm just like off and running. And so that just feels so lovely for me. And there's, with that increased I'm getting lost in my thoughts here, but essentially when you do this in craniosacral, so you move in that direction where the bone feels like it wants to be going, and then you end up with more movement and more expansion. And in life, I think this translates into more movement and expansion means there's more possibility. And so when there's more possibility, like everything seems like it's possible, obviously, because there's more possibility. But things are achievable. There's nothing that's impossible. And so that makes for some more optimism, and that also makes for more fun in the process. And I'm really passionate about people actually enjoying their lives, because I've seen so many people just despise the day-to-day. And why? Like, why would you do that to yourself? Because we're here on this planet to have a lovely time. And so moving in the direction of ease is really a method of enhancing that enjoyment and fun and all the great things in the day-to-day life. So how does this translate, and how do you make actual practical use of it? Well, first things first, you have to be able to identify what the direction of ease is. So in craniosacral, this is a felt sense, is what my teacher says, and it is. So in my fingertips, I can feel the bones moving, and I can feel that expansion and contraction of the cerebrospinal fluid. And so I can learn, and it takes a lot of time and practice, but you can learn to feel where is that direction. And in some people, it's super easy. I'm like, oh yeah, that's definitely the way this needs to go. But in some people, I just am sitting there for a long time with their head in my hands, trying to sort out which direction. Like, I'm not really sure where things are wanting to move. And so you may be in one of those two situations where maybe you're like, oh yeah, I totally know like which direction is easy for me. Or maybe you're in the situation of, I don't even know. This was me when I graduated from school in June. I was like, I don't even know what's fun anymore. I don't know what I enjoy anymore, because I'm so tired and burned out, and just like everything is work. So it took some time, and I did some meditation and reflection of like, okay, what would actually be fun? What would actually be the way to go that would feel easiest for me? And so a way that you can practice this, if you don't have time to like do a full meditation, or if you are not really a journal type person like I am, what you can do is just as you go about your day, just set the intention to notice, excuse me, but set the intention to notice those moments that you feel happy or content, or those moments where even if you don't feel like joy or happiness or contentment, like where are the moments that your gripes and your complaints lift for a few minutes or for a few seconds? That is a really good indication of the direction of ease for you. And then also, body awareness can give us a lot of information as well. So essentially, this is very similar. Just as you're going about your day, if you notice, and you can do this both ways for moving away from ease and moving into ease. Because if you're moving away from ease, you will notice you're feeling tense. You're feeling like maybe your head hurts. You're feeling like maybe your stomach feels upset, or whatever it is for you. But if you're moving into the direction of ease, then you notice, oh, my headache went away, or oh, my shoulders aren't feeling quite so tense, or you know, whatever it might be. Maybe your breathing is a little bit deeper and easier. So these are all things to practice and to maintain awareness of, to give us clues of, okay, what's the direction that like is the direction of ease? And so the second part of this is, once you're aware of it and once you know where that direction is, then you move and then you follow that. And this can be so, so scary. And I know, I feel you. If something comes up and you're like, oh crap, I really wish that wasn't the direction that this is going, because there's a lot to do there. I feel you. I'm with you. And I also know that if you have the courage and move in that direction, you're just going to see so many amazing things happen along the way, and you're going to have so much fun. And I want that for you so much, just for you to have all of the joy and fun that you possibly can have. And the other reason that this can be really challenging is because not only like it can feel scary to branch out and to do something new, but also we're really well trained and really well socialized, most of us, to do what we're supposed to do. And sometimes the direction of ease is not what we are supposed to be doing. And so you have to measure that for yourself of, okay, should I follow the rules here or should I deviate? And no one can make that call for you. You have to make that call. And depending on the situation, you know, it may or may not be good to move in the direction of ease or not. But now you know this as an option. And the more options you have, I just think the better life is in terms of mindset and being able to make choices in the moment. The other thing is that safety and ease are not the same thing. So what feels safe and what provides you, quote, security may not be the same thing as moving in the direction of ease. And so I'll give you an example from my life. When I was coming into the end, like wrapping everything up at school, we had this whole long process of applying for residencies, and naturopathic medicine is a little bit different from, quote, conventional medicine or osteopathic medicine, because naturopathic physicians, you don't have to have a residency in order to practice, which is both exciting and terrifying at the same time. But just so that you know sort of the context of this is that it's not required to move forward in the career. And so this application cycle is a whole host of, it's a big process. So you write your essays, you submit everything, your resume, this and that, like really trying to distill down who you are medically speaking into like 3 sheets of paper, which is a nightmare, but that's okay. So you do all that, get it submitted, pay your money, and then you see if you get any interviews. And so then, if you apply like I did to places outside of, where you live locally, for me it's Portland. So I applied to some places in Portland, I applied to some places outside of Portland, then you have to go do travel for interviews and all this. And it's all very exciting and it's all very stressful at the same time. And throughout the first round, I got some interviews, I did them, I bombed a couple of them, I did fine on a couple of them, a whole range of responses that both I and the people who were interviewing me had. But at the end of all of that, so this whole process, doing all the stress of completing my application, having all the stress of these interviews, and then I didn't match. So they do a process where there's a whole algorithm where they match the sites to the candidates, and I don't fully understand it because, anyway, it doesn't matter. But so they say, you match with a site if they have you on their list and you have them on their list. And the way the algorithm sorts you matches you. And I did not match. And to be honest, for a second, maybe like 5-10 minutes, I saw the list and I was like, shoot, my stomach sort of dropped out. I had some anxiety. I felt sad. I had some tears in my eyes. And I was just like, all right, well, this didn't happen. And I'll tell you what, as soon as that passed, I felt so good. It felt like a huge relief because I was doing something that was prescribed to me that I should be doing. And I wasn't sure if I really wanted it or if I didn't, but it felt like a lot of effort in the process, which it was. But then also when I was thinking through the whole process of like, if I get one, what is this going to mean for my life? That felt stressful and that's not fun. So then they release, so that all happened, and then a couple months, weeks, I'm not sure, the timeline is all fuzzy for me at this point, but then they release a second round of like, okay, there are sites that didn't match, and there are also candidates for residency who didn't match, so if you want to reapply for those sites that didn't match, you can. And I downloaded all of the information, and I was reading through it, and I sat and I was like, okay, well, I'll just do this, but I have some other things to do right now, so I'll come back to it on the weekend or whenever time is convenient. And I noticed that between the time when I opened the documents and was reading them to when I could come back to them, I developed this intense, like super painful left shoulder. And it was like my scapula all through my shoulder joint. And it was just like this gripping, sharp pain. I was like, okay, that's new. That seems like good information. Like, what is this about? And then I sat down and I did this exercise where I thought, okay, if I do this application, what does that mean? And maybe it means nothing, but then my pain got worse. And then I said, okay, I have the option. I can just let this go. I can figure out a different way to do this. I don't have to do a residency. I know doctors in town who I can ask for help. I have people who I trust to mentor me. There are all kinds of different ways to go about practicing this medicine. What if I just let go of this residency and embrace all of those other ways? And as I sat in my meditation, I kid you not, my entire shoulder just relaxed and that pain disappeared. And that's when I made the decision, like, nope, not for me. I'm going to let this one go. And so that was a really clear moment of me just deciding, like, this quote safe option would be to get a job as a resident and just like have a salary and move forward in this. But that feels so tense and stressful and literally painful. But if I opt out of that option, that is much more dangerous feeling. I don't know how I'm going to land. I don't know how things are going to work out for me. But it feels better. I don't have this like gripping pain in my shoulder. I don't feel stressed. I feel relaxed and happy, and I feel like I can have some fun with this. And so, of course, that is the direction that I went in. So hopefully that provides you some solid information about, having an awareness at least of what your options are, and that it is possible to move in that direction of ease, and it is possible to have really good benefits from that. I have seen too many people waste their lives away trying to force things through and trying to strong arm it, and I think that at one point in our history that was the way to do things, and I think that now the time that we are in and coming into is it's a much more feminine approach to life, to be easy with things and to flow through your life and to just sort of trust that intuitive knowing that you have. And if you want to dive more deeply into this, and if you want to just get super into your intuitive knowing, go ahead and check out Actionable Intuition, which is a course that I offer that is all about making really practical use of this body wisdom and intuitive knowing that we all have. And so intuition doesn't have to be something that's, sort of ethereal and can't pin down. Intuition really can be a tangible, tactical tool that you use on a day-to-day basis to help guide your decisions. And so in this course, I walk you through all these different exercises and practices that you can do on a day-to-day basis, and you don't need a lot of time to do them. Like 15 minutes a day is probably sufficient to get you going. So I'll drop a link in the show notes so you can check that out. All right, friends, thank you so much for listening. I'm so glad that you're here, and I hope that as you go about your week this week, you are able to just keep practicing moving in the direction of ease, and that you experience lightness and joy and as much fun as you possibly can from that. All right, take care.